Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer. And today we're going to be doing an AI generative news update because a lot of stuff has been going on in the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you have been inundated with stuff, but it's like even when I'm just on Twitter, period, at all, it's like half of my feed is .ai accounts now that are just posting garbage video that they have produced or generated or whatever. And there is a lot of that going on. I don't think I bookmarked any of them because I have been pretty much blocking every account I see that has those in them. But we'll touch on it with today's topics at least. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lamai, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first Monday video of the month, we bask in your creative genii. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit your first chapter and your cover, the first chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. I might not be your reader. I could be your reader. I've bought books from that stack before, but it doesn't matter either way. I want every book that comes in through there, if it is written by you. That's the rule. Written by you. No generator. Then there are readers waiting to see it. There are readers waiting to find you, and hopefully that's a way to help get your name out there in the best way that at least I can help right now. But the third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my works, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. My next book, Body More Zero, is coming out in October. It features these fine gentlemen, there we go, right there, as the main characters, Ralph and Casey. And if you want to know more about it, stay tuned. The arc is going to go out in the middle of the summer, and it is released in October. And looking forward to sharing it. With that said, let's jump into the news. There is a lot to go through today. There has just been so much in the last couple of weeks. There always is. I also have one update that is not related to generative AI, but I have nowhere else. I have no idea where else to stick it in. And since I've covered it on the channel before, I'm just going to plug that update in here. So I'm sorry if it's not relevant to like the majority of the people that watch this video. It is relevant to books and publishing and an association in the writing industry that has been covered quite a bit on this channel. When we get there, you'll know. I'll give some background on it and you'll know. But with that said, let's get started. The first thing is earlier in the last like week or two, it was rolled out the idea of Microsoft Recall, which was going to just take constant screenshots or snapshots, I should say, of everything on your computer and upload it to this cloud, all of your data, all of your everything, and nothing that you can control. And it wasn't encrypted, making everything on your computer open for hackers to just scrub from whatever the Microsoft thought was a great idea. How about we just stop trying to shove this garbage into everything, this privacy breaching garbage? I am impatiently waiting for all of the lawsuits to go through to like put an end to this garbage. They are trying to reach as far and as fast as they can, so you don't get to own anything, girl. You don't get to own anything. Look, I may have to commend the people that write the most disturbing fiction out there. I'm not talking about the splatterpunk. I'm talking about like legitimately the stuff that will destroy their systems by putting it in there. I might commend you for this. But so there was such a breach in privacy, in cybersecurity, that they had to recall the tool called Windows Recall, which is an AI to scrape everything on your computer and put it in a data bank because it was so open and so easy for hackers to get into. They were just going to put this on everybody's business, but it's been recalled because a lot of people pointed out the security weaknesses in this thing. So never think that your voice doesn't matter when you're pointing something out. It does matter. It can bring attention, and enough people mentioning something will make noise. A second thing that has to do with breaching cybersecurity has to do with people talking that has to do with corporations talking about inserting AI into the BIOS on the computer. So it's in the UEFI BIOS system, so you can't even get rid of it. It is buried into the entire operating system of the computer. They want to just have their spyware on literally everything so that there's nothing you can do. Even if you don't upload to the internet, even if you keep it to yourself, if you use a computer at all, the corporations own you. So Oh, here it is. Quickly. The Romance Writers of America has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, with the organization saying it is unable to cover hotel costs for its annual conference due to dwindling memberships. So, if you're new to this channel, you may not have. You probably came after I talked about the RWA shit show. I don't remember when it happened. The RWA shit show was when a bunch of racial stuff was going back and forth, people calling each other racists for the tweets that they liked, for liking Charlie Kirk tweets and Tucker Carlson tweets and Donald Trump tweets, and then dragging this woman for writing a book that had a mixed race heroine that had green eyes and dark skin. And it was just like flipping out about political differences and choosing to pick fights because you just had radicals going against conservatives, just even just mainline conservatives, because Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Donald Trump, those were all just mainstream whatever in 2017, 2018. It's like, come on, just let people have their thing. You don't have to like them for it, but like trying to ruin everything. And so then this brought in like Courtney Milan was involved and Alyssa Cole was involved, and they got like the entire board was restructured and they changed the name of the award show, and a bunch of people quit. And so I have a couple of videos that detail what was going on at the time. It's been a couple of years, so I don't remember everything, but there are a couple of things here. And obviously, after that restructuring and the massive apology that RWA made that they shouldn't have made, and all of the changes they made to be anti-racist, which obviously they didn't need to do. All they did was alienate their people. That didn't do anything wrong, mind you. They're now failing. So that's just an update. The RWA kind of killed itself, apparently, by listening to people that weren't even in the RWA. Because listen, when this was going on with Courtney Milan, commenting on it on Twitter, she wasn't in the RWA. She was just part of the peanut gallery. That, yeah. So I'm bringing this up because I have a couple of things relating to generative AI. This is why I'm bringing up the RWA now, because I have a couple of articles that have to do with the publishing industry and AI. And again, this goes into another thing. I said that my Twitter was just full of AI generative stuff, and that includes poets and writers, like throwing, and a couple of other websites, throwing a bunch of AI related articles my way that have to do with the writing industry or the publishing industry, choosing to publish a bunch of AI related stuff. And it's like, you guys need to slow your roll. I know that the writing industry is not the greatest at not following trends. It is like probably the worst at just jumping on trends as fast as possible to try to capitalize on them. But like, you're gonna get in a lot of trouble. You star. If you want to die faster, that's how I feel. But so you've got this first one from Poets and Writers that have these new books will help you understand AI. I highly doubt it. I think the best place to go for understanding AI is unironically Twitter at the moment, because you got so many different people who work in different industries discussing them. And that's not to say that there aren't people that are also lying on Twitter, but there are also people posting clips all over the place of people inside of these industries that show they don't know what the frick they're talking about. And you have artists and programmers and artists and programmers that are in both disciplines that are talking about this stuff. So I wouldn't just blatantly trust those. 6 books on AI in the workplace. They are so desperate. Tell me this doesn't look like trend chasing. Harper Business. Are you telling me that Harper Collins is Harper Business a Harper Collins? John Hopkins University. Yikes. 2 books examining ChatGPT. Like, while it's hot, while the SEO is in the front, ChatGPT and the future of AI, a deep language revolution, supremacy, AI, ChatGPT, and race that will change the world. And the race that will change the world. It's just the publishing industry trying to make a bunch of money by getting stuff out there while it's at the top of relevancy. In the same way that, like, how many people were releasing books about Donald Trump in freaking 2015 through 2017, 2018, where it was just like, how many books do you need about the same political fan fiction garbage? We don't. So then we've got this other one that is separate from actual publishing deals. That is why the book publishing industry is embracing AI. Is it? Contrary to the fears and reservations some may hold, AI offers unprecedented opportunities for innovation, efficiency, enhancing creativity. Actually, it doesn't. It's limiting creativity, but in this comprehensive article, we explore how AI is revolutionizing the book publishing industry and why the technological advancements is being embraced rather than feared. That is going to depend on where you look, where you go, and the fact that they continually say feared when it's not feared, it's angry. It's a lot of anger that is being pointed at this because it is justified anger, because this is evil action. I don't care if you don't think that it is. It is. I'm not going to argue with you that it's evil. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Just like you can't argue with a child molester that child molesting is wrong. They're just going to do it. So I'm not going to address you. Congratulations on reaching that level where you're not even worth addressing. The evolution of AI in book publishing, the advent of AI in content creation. AI technologies have made significant strides in content creation. Advanced algorithms and machine learning models can now generate human-like text, aiding authors in brainstorming, drafting, and editing their manuscripts. This fails to see that if the publishers do not need authors to write books, then they can just cut out the middleman and not have to make book deals. So there's no reason for authors, period, in the publishing industry. There's no reason for editors either. Like, it doesn't do anything. Enhancing editing and proofreading. Also, I want to disagree. Again, it does not enhance editing or proofreading. It is going to homogenize all of the writing, because what none of the editors, period, the inserted editors inside of stuff like Microsoft Word or like Grammarly, none of them understand voice. And none of them understand imperfect language. They all understand formal language. And so if you write in a character voice, or if you write anything short of a formal term paper, it is going to want to correct you. And so a chat GBT, something like this, an algorithm, is going to homogenize the voice of your story, the voice of your characters, to try to be whatever the majorly decided dialect cleanly for everything is. And it's not going to be your book. An algorithm is never going to be able to actually be your reliable editor, because it doesn't understand context, it doesn't understand character, it doesn't understand nuance. That's a human job, period. Transforming marketing distribution. Data-driven marketing strategies. AI excels at analyzing large data sets to uncover patterns and insight. In book publishing, AI-driven analytics can identify target audiences, predict reading trends, and optimize marketing strategies. Publishers can leverage these insights to tailor their promotional campaigns, reaching the right readers with precision and maximizing their marketing ROI. I feel like there's not really a way to do this, because you don't know what is going to pop off next. You don't know what's going to work. And I feel like stuff that does this thinks that humans are only predictable and only going to do whatever you think that they're going to do, and not like surprise you in the middle of the night with a flash in the pan explosion of energy in a certain direction, and then everybody is going to start writing freaking fae romance story retellings of Beauty and the Beast with Miyazaki. Yes, you know how many of those I've seen recently? More than a few. It can't read people. Personalizing reader experiences. Look, you can't personalize my reader experience. My reading list is so ridiculous. I'm waiting for the AI to just keep feeding me the freaking books that I've been reading lately. I read too vastly for it to figure out what I read. AI algorithms can curate personalized reading recommendations based on individual preferences and reading habits. Platforms like Amazon Kindle and Goodreads utilize AI to suggest books to align with readers' interests, enhancing user engagement and satisfaction. Streamlining production, automating typesetting and design, efficient rights management. How does it? Managing intellectual property rights is a complex task in the publishing industry. I mean, it doesn't exist if you're using generative AI. It's funny that it'll mention managing rights. There are no rights when you're using generative AI. AI solutions can streamline right management by tracking and analyzing license agreements, royalty payments, and distributing rights. This doesn't even feel like AI. Again, there's parts of this that just feel like, in general, the words AI are popular, so people are using them for marketing reasons, but not actually for what it is. Combating piracy. Piracy remains a significant challenge for book publishing industry. While you're talking about AI, which is what the biggest pirate internet scraper there is, AI-powered systems can monitor and detect unauthorized distribution of digital content, helping publishers protect their intellectual property. They really can't. Like, there is such a problem with this because it doesn't understand where separations are. It makes me think of there are only so many ways to say something, especially when it's fictional, right? If you want to say like it's sunny outside, it was sunny outside on February 2nd. There are only so many ways to say that. And a generative AI is just going to see the words in a pattern and then call it plagiarism when it's like there are only three ways to say this, my guy. You can't, it is not effective. People need to stop. This is just the top of laziness and greed. That's all that this is. It is not effective. It is not helpful. It's not making any job easier it's not making any job easier that nobody wants to do. It is just greed and laziness. The stuff isn't even that difficult to just do if you work in the field. AI is instrumental in making books more accessible to a wider audience. Text-to-speech technologies and automated translation services enable publishers to reach non-native speakers and individuals with visual impairments. So I gotta ask, because personally, and take my idiot take as much as you will, but I think that there's probably one of the worst uses of generative AI is automatic translating, because stuff will be said in other languages that is not as direct as in your language. So translation takes an understanding of language and nuance, idioms, catches a phrase. It takes an understanding of culture so that you can accurately portray what was being said in this other language in your native language. And I don't see an internet algorithm ever, I don't see a computer algorithm ever being able to capture the cultural nuances that are in languages. Like, is it just me that thinks that? Or because I feel like people who work in translation have already talked about how much work they have to do when they're given stuff that was translated by a computer and then have to fix what it said, where it's basically you just start over anyway because what they gave you is not workable. It just feels like a way to try to pay humans less while actually making them do more work because you have to start over. But it's employers or people with the money making up excuses to save money while still using people when you should just use people to begin with. This is so dumb. This is so dumb. The future of AI in book publishing, collaborative creativity, or you could just have an idea room, have just talk to people as you do. Future of AI in book publishing lies in collaborative creativity. Rather than replacing human authors, AI serves as a powerful tool that complements and enhances human ingenuity. No, it doesn't. Authors and publishers can leverage AI to experiment with new genres, explore diverse narrative. No, that's just storytelling. How hard is this? It is just storytelling. It is just the aspect of thinking, of creating, of putting the ideas out there that is actually the job, not giving it to somebody else to just do it. Then you're not doing it. Like, what is this actually doing? It's erasing the job, saying you don't need to think, bro. Just don't even think. Just don't even have a job. Just go rot over there and kill yourself. I don't see anywhere else for this to go. It's just lazy, useless people who go, well, maybe if I'm not doing anything, you shouldn't do anything either. If I don't have any skills, you shouldn't have any skills. That is skill leveling, my dude, where we are all equally bad at everything because I took away your ability to use your skills. Is that too sharp? Okay, and then over here again with poets and writers, will human AI partnerships make publishing work more innovative? Innovative? It's just about adapting to new technologies to carry out the work. It's about rethinking how we approach work. No, it is not. We have initiated a program to catalyze the adaptation of AI tools. It includes providing corporate subscriptions to OpenAI and training to help employees understand key concepts such as how to build effective prompts and how to identify the red lines that we shouldn't cross. Example, creating content that will go into our publication. We also are building a shared library of effective AI prompts, and furthermore, we are implementing an incentive program to recognize and reward those who develop prompts that provide value on multiple individuals. Of course, challenges remain, including a lack of robust feedback mechanisms to gauge the impact of the shared prompts and a means of integrating them effectively into everyday workflow. Addressing these issues and others will be crucial in refining our approach. As we enter a new era in publishing, integrating generative AI into the workflow presents an exciting opportunity. If you're going to put those in the publishing industry, you deserve to fail. Ken Brooks. If this is what you're going to do, you deserve to fail. And I hope that you do. And I hope that indies get to take over and replace you. Then you have AI products like ChatGPT hyped but not much used, study says. So you got some of these people, which it feels like astroturfing. This week has specifically, this last 2 weeks has specifically felt like astroturfing, freaking as it hits the wall. So very few people are regularly using a much hyped artificial intelligence products like ChatGPT, survey suggests. Researchers surveyed 12,000 people in 6 countries, including the UK, with only 2% of British respondents saying that they use such a tool daily. But the study from Reuters Institute and Oxford University says young people are bucking the trend, with 18 to 20-year-olds the most eager to adapt the tech. Is that because they don't have schools? Dr. Richard Fletcher, the report's lead author, told the BBC that there was a mismatch between the hype around AI and the public interest in it. The study remained views on generative AI tools, the new generation of products that can respond to simple text prompts with human-sounding answers, as well as images, audio, and video. Generative AI burst into the public consciousness when ChatGPT launched in November 2022. The attention OpenAI's chatbot attracted set off an almighty arms race among tech firms to steal as quickly as they possibly could, who ever since have been pouring billions of dollars into developing their own generative AI features. I can't wait for them all to get sued. However, this research indicates that for all of the money and attention lavished on generative AI, it is yet to become part of people's routine internet use. Large parts of public are not particularly interested in generative AI, and 30% of people in the UK say they have not heard of any of the most prominent products, including ChatGPT. The new generative AI products also sparked a tense public debate about whether or not we will have a positive or negative impact. Predicted outcomes have ranged from the optimists for a boost in economic growth to the discovery of new life-saving drugs. The pessimists, however, have gone to suggest that the tech is a threat to humanity itself. This research attempted to gauge what the public thinks, finding the majority expect generative AI to have a large impact on society in the next 5 years, particularly for news, media, and science. Most said that they think generative AI will make their own lives better, and when asked whether generative AI will make society as a whole better or worse, people generally were more pessimistic. People's hopes and fears for generative AI vary a lot depending on the sector. People are generally optimistic about the use of generative AI in science and healthcare, but more wary about it in the news and journalism, and worried about the effect of it on job security. He said that research showed it important to everyone, including governments and regulations, to apply nuance to the debate around AI. The findings, based on the responses to an online questionnaire fielded in 6 countries: Argentina, Denmark, France, Japan, the UK, and the USA. So, cold between not all hot, not all cold. It just kind of is the trend of the day. Then we have this study that is being shared by Rowan Paul. This paper investigates the dramatic breakdown of the state of art large language learning models reasoning capabilities when confronted with the simple common sense problem called Alice in Wonderland AIW problem. This is despite their strong performance on standard reasoning benchmarks. The key conclusion is that current LLMs lack basic reasoning skills, and existing benchmarks to fail to properly detect these deficiencies. And that's what I've said, is these things don't understand nuance. These things only understand yes or no, black or white, nothing else. You train it on homogenized information. The Alice in Wonderland problem is a concise natural language task that asks: Alice has N brothers, and she also has M sisters. How many sisters does Alice's brothers have? How many sisters does Alice's brother have? While easily solvable by humans using common sense reasoning, the correct answer is M plus 1. Most tested LLMs, including ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, LLaMA, Minstrel, and others, show a severe collapse in performance, often providing nonsensical answers and reasoning. Notably, even when LLMs occasionally provide correct answers, they often express strong overconfidence in their wrong solutions and generate confabulations, persuasive, and nonsensical explanations to justify their incorrect responses. Standard interventions like enhanced prompting or asking models to reevaluate their answers fail to improve performance. The author introduced a harder variation called Alice in Wonderland Plus, which causes an even stronger performance collapse across all tested models, including ChatGPT 4 and Claude 3 Opus, which performed relatively better on the original Alice in Wonderland problem. This study highlights a striking discrepancy between LLM high scores on standardized reasoning benchmarks and their poor performance on Alice in Wonderland problems, suggesting that current benchmarks do not adequately reflect models' true reasoning capabilities and weaknesses. There's no reasoning, it's an algorithm. The author emphasizes the need for the ML community to develop new reasoning benchmarks that can properly detect such deficits and guide the improvement of LLM's reasoning skills. They also stress the importance of the fully open and reproducible training pipeline, including dataset compositions to enable proper analysis and progress in this area. So I will link this in the description below if you want to check out the study for yourself. Rohan Paul has it listed here. We also have media companies are making a huge mistake with AI. This is from The Atlantic. News organizations rush to absolve AI companies of theft are acting against their own interest. In 2011, I sat in the Gegenberg Museum in New York and watched Rupert Murdoch announce the beginning of the new digital renaissance for news. The newspaper mogul was unveiling an iPad-inspired publication called The Daily. The iPad demands that we completely reimagine our craft, he said. The Daily shut down the following year after burning through the reported $40 million. For as long as I have reported on internet companies, I have watched news leaders try to bend their businesses to the will of Apple, Google, Meta, and more. Chasing text distribution and cash, news firms strike deals to try to ride out the new digital wave. They make concessions to platforms that attempt to take all of their audiences that great journalism attracts without ever having to do the complicated and expensive work of journalism itself. And it never, ever works as planned. Publishers like News Corp did it with Apple and the iPad, investing huge sums of flashy content that didn't make them any money but helped Apple sell more hardware. They took payouts from Google to offer their journalism for free through search, only to find that it eroded their subscription businesses. They lined up to produce original videos for Facebook to reformat their articles to work on its new app. Then the social media company canceled the shows in the app. Many news organizations went out of business. The Wall Street Journal recently laid off staffers who were part of the Google-funded program to get journalists to post YouTube channels when the funding for the program dried up. And still, just as the news business is entering a death spiral, these publishers are making all the same mistakes and more with AI. Publishers are deep in negotiations with tech firms such as OpenAI to sell their journalism as training for the company's models. I don't know how you would even... That's not a job that you can have a computer do, because journalism is very specifically observing something and then reporting on it. And the computer can't do that. So I don't know what they even think that they're going to do to have an automatic system be able to observe and then report. It's so insane. And it turns out that accurate, well-written news is one of the most valuable sources for these models, which have been hoovering up human intellectual output without permission. These AI platforms need timely news and facts to get customers to trust them, and now, facing the threat of lawsuits, they are pursuing business deals to absolve them of the theft. These deals amount to settling without litigation. The publishers willing to roll over this aren't just failing to defend their own intellectual property, they're also trading their own hard-earned credibility for a little cash from that company that are simultaneously undervaluing them and building products quite literally intended to replace them. Last year, Axel Springer, the European publisher that owns Politico and Business Insider, sealed a deal with OpenAI, reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars over several years. OpenAI has been offering other publishers $1 million to $5 million a year to license their content. News Corp's new 5-year deal with OpenAI is reportedly valued at as much as $250 million in cash and OpenAI credits. Conversations are heating up. As the negotiations with OpenAI failed, the New York Times sued the firm, also did Alden Global Capital, which owns the New York Daily News and the Chicago Tribune. They were brave moves, although I worry that they are likely to end in deals too. One of the things that I'm thinking of now as well, because even if you say I'm licensing this information so that Google and OpenAI and whatever can just scrape the data. So then when you look for something, it'll pop something up at the top. One of the things that you look for when you're looking up information or when you're looking up what's happening is you're trying to find where that information is coming from to check to gauge whether it is accurate or not, to gauge how trustworthy it is. Because if you just get this blurb at the top of Google and it says, hey, here's this information, how do I know that that came from a reporting website and not from like LiveJournal, somebody entering how they're feeling about something? Or how do I know that that's not from 4chan, just filling stuff out so that it gets crabbed by the AI and then puts up as the information? How do I know if it's credible if I don't know where it comes from? Because there's no way to check. It's just being spat out there, and you're just supposed to look at it as if whatever was spat out at you is accurate. And we're going to get into that, where Google had this issue where it was doing generative AI. I don't know if it's still doing generative AI, but it was spitting incorrect stuff out. So if these try to just even license, so they say, well, we can scrape this so that we can then produce it for a quick answer. How do I, the viewer, know that that information is legitimate? Because I don't have a source for it. Like, one of the things that we are required to do in college constantly is source our information so that people know that it's legitimate, so they know we're not just making it up. And now all of the corporations running all of these websites, including the news websites, are just like, just trust me, bro. No source is needed. It's insanity. The media companies would rush to do these deals after being so burned by their tech deals of the past is extraordinarily distressing, and these AI partnerships are far worse for publishers. 10 years ago, it was at least plausible to believe that tech companies would become serious about distributing news to consumers. They were building actual products, such as Google News. Today's AI chatbots are so early and make mistakes often, pretty much a lot. Just this week, Google's AI suggested you should glue cheese to pizza crust to keep it from slipping off. OpenAI, that's what I'm talking about. It's just going to be 4chan and Reddit and like Kiwi Farms, just like good luck. Good luck, everybody. OpenAI and others say that they are interested in building new models for distribution, and to credit news and many news executives I respect believe them. But it's hard to see how any AI product built by a tech company would create meaningful news distribution and revenue for news. These companies using AI to disrupt internet searches to help users find single answers faster than browsing a few links. So why would anyone want to read a bunch of news articles when an AI should just give them an answer? Maybe with a tiny footnote crediting the publisher that no one will ever click. Companies act in their interest, but OpenAI isn't even an ordinary company. It's a nonprofit with a for-profit arm that wants to promote general artificial intelligence that benefits humanity. That's what it's... Though it can't quite decide what that means. Like the elites. The only people that count as humanity is elites. Even if its executives were ardent believers in the importance of news, helping journalism wouldn't be on their long-term priority list. That's all before we talk about how to price the news. Ask 6 publishers what they should be paid for these tech companies, and they will spout out 6 different ideas. One common idea publishers describe is getting a slice of the tech company revenue based on the percentage of the total training data their publications represent. That's impossible to track, and there's no way that tech companies would agree to it. Then they'd have to say how much they're stealing. Even if they did agree to it, there would be no way to check their calculations. The data sets used for training are vast and inscrutable. And let's remember that these AI companies are themselves struggling to find consumer business model. How do you negotiate for a slice of something that doesn't even exist yet? The news industry finds itself in a dangerous spot yet again, in part because it lacks a long-term focus and strategic patience. Does it even understand what it is that it's doing? It's not just about making money. I know that the business side of journalism is making money, but what is the business of journalism? Is it so far gone that people can't even remember why they're there, what their job is? Because then that means you should probably get out. Then that means that the industry is dead, and you should probably leave it to people who understand what the business is. Once family owned outlets such as the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times have been sold to interested billionaires. Others, like the Wall Street Journal, are beholden to the public markets and face coming generational changes among their owners. Television journalism is at the whims of the largest media conglomerates, which are now looking to slice, dice, and sell off their empires at peak market value. Many large media companies are run by executives who want to live to see another quarter, not set up their company for the next 50 years. That is ultimately going to burn you. You need to set up for the long term, not what you're going to make today. But there are so many people focused on like how they can shove their pockets full of money now at the destruction of the future. And it blows my mind how many people are so focused on themselves and the destruction of everything just so that they can what? Be super fat today? Disgusting. But there's nothing that you can do with that. That's an issue, again, of the heart, because you're either going to think about the long term or you're going to think about what I can have for me right now today. And the right now me today, the instant gratification, is usually destructive to everybody, including yourself. A recent congressional hearing on the topic of AI in the news was overshadowed by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's meeting with House Speaker Mike Johnson. Tech companies clearly have far more clout than media companies. Seems suspicious. Things are about to get worse. Legacy and upstart media alike are bleeding money and talent by the week. More outlets are likely to shut down, while others will end up in the hands of powerful individuals using them for their own agendas. I feel like if your company is bleeding money and talent, one of the most important things you can do is build the reputation for why people should choose you over others. Because if you just make yourself look like a sellout, like everything else, a dishonest sellout that is run by, billionaires that don't care about anything but more money and lining their pockets and lying to you about what's going on, then there's no point for any reason. There's no reason for anybody to tune into you. The long-term solutions are far from clear, but the answer to this moment is painfully obvious. Publishers should be patient and refrain from licensing away their content for relative pennies. Yeah, don't freak out. Don't do the thing that is like the impulse, the fear-driven, because it's going to be the worst thing for you. I have to constantly remind myself and try. I fail, but I'm working on it. To try not to respond to the emotional or immediate impulse. The fool responds quickly. The wise man, takes it slow. And so in times where I feel like I need to respond or when stuff feels personal, I try to slow it down to not respond, because bad things always happen when I respond too quickly. That's for sure. They should have the integrity to say no. It's simply too early to get into bed with the companies that train their models on professional content without permission and no compelling cases for how they will help build a new business. Instead of it's going to burn everything to the ground. Instead of keeping their business development department busy, newsrooms should focus on what they do best, making great journalism and serving it up to their readers. Technology companies aren't in the business of news, and they shouldn't be. Publishers have to stop looking at them to rescue the news business. We must start saving ourselves, which is a great thing to say. Is none of these things, the tech companies that are getting into the arts, the tech companies that are getting into movies, the tech companies that are getting into journalism, tech doesn't care. Tech doesn't understand your job. Tech is a different industry than any of these things. So why is there this assumption that they suddenly know and want for the best of our industries? How much involvement do you have in their industry? How much is what you do for that industry? Does that make sense? I mean, I know that I'm an idiot, so pretty much nothing I say really matters, but Ed Newton Rex adds on to this article with Jessica Lesson is right. Publishers shouldn't do deals with AI companies that have already taken on, trained on, or commercialized their content without permission. By doing so, they encourage IP theft. They should instead prioritize deals with good actors who license data before training it. Over here with Reed Southern, we also have an article where CEO of Google says it has no solution for its AI providing wildly inaccurate information. And that's where it comes from with like, how do you know where the Google search information is coming from when it doesn't reference it? And you had so many things. Here, Anthony Schmidt posted, can cockroaches live in your penis? And Google answered, absolutely, and it's totally normal. Fact check, guys. Usually over the course of a year, 5 to 10 cockroaches will crawl into your penis hole while you're asleep. This is how they get the name cockroach. And you won't notice a thing. Guys, please tell me that's not true. Now we're getting into just like some rapid fire stuff. With AI, your creativity sets the limits. Understanding art history, composition, and storytelling is essential for effective direction. Tools evolve quickly. Some tools, once essential, are now obsolete, he said. At Naughty Dog, we transitioned from hand animated Jack and Dexter to using motion capture and Uncharted, significantly enhancing our storytelling. AI will allow us to create nuanced dialogues and characters, expanding creative possibilities. However, it's crucial to precisely direct these tools to achieve the intended outcomes. So Romain Durand is disagreeing here, and this is why Naughty Dog's best game is still Jack. Good design, good writing, perfect art direction for its time. Calling hand animation obsolete is one of the most idiotic things that I've read this week, and it is ridiculous. Naughty Dog boss Neil Druckmann says AI will revolutionize the department. So if anybody needed a reason for disliking Neil Druckmann more after, you know, what he did to The Last of Us 2, there you go is more. Over here with Ed Newton Rex, when you Google is training generative AI on copyrighted work without permission, fair use, you get an AI answer that one, cites two sources, both of which suggest it's fair use in the order of arguments it presents, and use of diminishing language, some lawsuits, could be expected to leave the reader to conclude that it's fair use. Given that Google is being sued for copyright infringement around generative AI training, you would hope that it would give users of its core product more of a balanced view. So not looking good, and yeah, Google is being sued. Another thing over here with Nina Metz, which kind of goes back to everything before. One of the reasons this is important, writing is thinking. So this goes to a previous thing where it's talking about how ChatGPT was stealing jobs from university students looking to have others write their term papers. And I've talked about this as well in other generative AI videos where it stops you from thinking. I even remember having some private conversations where somebody was asking about using generative AI for smaller tasks and like looking in your kitchen and finding what's to make in your fridge, or having it tell you what to wear. And I was like, it's a dangerous territory to slip into when you tell yourself to stop thinking, when you tell yourself to stop making decisions. But especially in any of these areas where you're learning a skill, where you're making decisions, where you're thinking through what you're doing, it is so dangerous because you're training yourself to not think anymore ever again. And it slows you down. I've talked about in the last year and a half how drawing again has turned on a part of my brain that has made it easier to visualize things that I wasn't using for the last couple of years because I haven't been trying to visualize what I'm writing. And now the pictures are more vivid than they have ever been before. And the same thing is going to happen with your writing. If you don't write, if you don't think through your reasons, you're not going to be able to answer why you think what you think or how to problem solve because you're outsourcing that. When we teach people how to write, we also teach them how to sit and sort through ideas and connections and contradictions. So much thinking and realization happens when you write. And it's so much more frustrating because of how many times I feel like I'm trying to have conversations with people and they're not hearing what I say. They're not actually absorbing what is being said. They're just stuck in either whatever they've already thought, or that's pretty much it. They just don't think. They hear what they are ready to say. They are prepared for the correction. And sometimes even when you give them the answer they want, they're still not listening. Oh, one of my daily pet peeves, like minor pet peeves, is the people who use "how are you" as a greeting. So you walk into the room and they go, "Hey, good morning, how are you?" And you say, "I'm good, thank you, how are you?" And they answer and they ask how you are again. Because they're not listening. They're not active. They're not there. And it's disheartening. It's disrespectful, but it's also disheartening because it shows you're not paying attention. You don't really care. You're going through emotion and you're turning your brain off. You're just doing what's expected of you, but you're not actually paying attention. You're just pretending. That initial tweet goes over here to Nate Holdrens. It says, "This is probably obvious and I'm just slow on the uptake, but I think part of what's going on with this conversation about AI and writing instruction is that a student can either use AI or learn to write, and there is not really a middle ground here. The technology impedes learning to write. If you use a hydraulic jack to lift weights in the gym, I'll learn about using the hydraulic jack, but I simply won't develop the skills or capacity that actually weightlifting develops, other than a very minimally by untracking the weight plates. A lot of the AI booster people ultimately either just don't care about people learning to write or don't understand writing instruction, or either way, that means that their opinions on how to do writing instruction should absolutely be ignored. I can't tell you how many people I've seen that don't know how to do basic writing. And so then they're like, I'm going to stop you from, I want to insult you. You don't know how to write. Guys, please read. Please go and read some things. Writing is difficult, and it is more than just putting words down on a paper, but the people that have no training in that area apparently just feel like it's totally fine to insult everything because they don't know how to do it. Is it possible that AI eventually leads to less use of writing skills? I'm skeptical that it'll happen. But at the very least, it's very premature to conclude that this will definitely happen, and jumping the gun on changes in response to that is simply not in its students' best interest. I don't think, unless you get to the point when a society is completely passive, when a society is completely domesticated to the point that nobody is thinking anymore at all, then it's not going to happen. And even if you look at one society, one town, one something, all of the countries in the world do not operate like this. All of the countries in the world are not at the same level as some places in the United States. A lot of places don't do things as technologically advanced as some of the places in the United States. Heck, Alaska doesn't even have roads to some of the places, some of the villages that are up there. They can't get roads. And so this isn't going to work. You're not going to have a global domination of this. You're going to have small pockets of populations, if anything, that give into this, that are going to become like North Korea, where you only know in that generation what you were taught by the great leader, and you have to reject it while you can, not give in because you're lazy. But this is never going to happen unless the entire world population is castrated. And it's just not going to happen because the entire world population isn't on the same page technologically speaking already. It's better to learn the skills, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to learn the skills. Unless you're this guy. Going over here to Zarathustra, Joshua Bach says ChatGPT gives superpowers to the not so smart and the very smart. It's only the prompt completers among us, like boring opinion journalists and AI critics, who will have to find new jobs. So like,
present algorithms, they give superpowers to not so smart people because they can summarize an extremely complicated text or get you to write a complicated text just from a few bullet points. And it also gives superpowers to very smart people because very smart people suddenly get 20 interns for $20 a month from OpenAI. And you have to micromanage these interns because they're not able to see the big picture. They're really super autistic and sometimes incoherent, but they are relentless and fast, right? And so if you know what they should be doing for you, this is really enabling you. But for the people in the middle, the prompt completers among us, for those who are only writing texts and answering emails based on expectations, they are terrified, and I think correctly so, because they might have to find a more creative job. Because when you're only solving expectations, when you only write the expected text based on a prompt, if you are a boring opinion journalist or a boring AI critic, you can be replaced by ChatGPT.
So being a critic of AI makes you a boring whatever. Okay, but let's also not overlook one, the stupid people get from this. So he thinks that if you're dumb from this, he also associates this with autistic being completely devoid, completely unhelpful, completely just needs to be micromanaged because you were completely helpless. Just take that how you will if you want to consider that how you're being graded. Then we also have Sam Altman over here saying increasing AI capabilities will require some changes to the social construct. The whole structure of society itself will be up for some degree of debate and reconfiguration. Again, you're going to have to do it for everybody. What this is actually going to do is destabilize only certain places that actually have that kind of technological ability, and most places in the world don't. There's also what Chris says here, Chris Lewis Lee. There's the idea that there will be a universal wage for all of us in the future. But if you take that logic, why are there so many food banks and homeless people right now? If the rich will support us in the future, why won't they do it right now? Good question. Just trust us, bro. One of the other big things that has happened over the last couple of weeks, one of the biggest things, probably the story that I should have led with, is that Adobe changed its terms of service so that it basically owns everything that you do inside of it. You can't use any of your Adobe products or any version of previous Adobe products without accepting the new terms of service. And the new terms of service says that anything that you use or open into Adobe is now to be limitlessly license free, shared by them whenever they want, however they want, globally. You see here, Adobe's TOS mentions machine learning, creating derivative works, improving the service, etc. It's a lot more than they had for Adobe stock. We may access, view, or listen to your contents defined in Section 4.1 through both automated and manual methods. Automated systems may analyze your contents using technology such as machine learning in order to improve services and software. Improving services and software, you grant us non-exclusive worldwide royalty-free sub-license to use, reproduce, publicly display, distribute, modify, create derivative works based on, publicly perform, and translate the content. So they just want all of your stuff. Anything that you do, even if it's under NDA, if you're under NDA, if you open it in that, they're going to take it. And Alex Champander, the reason class action lawsuits will soon be underway against Adobe, they're playing with words, then legal gaslighting users on the contradictions. We don't train on your content in this case, but in this other place we can. Then, because of this information, a lot of professionals in the industries across the world have been canceling their subscriptions, also being forced to pay cancellation fees for canceling their subscriptions early, but many had a problem with it. I do not and will not give Adobe a pass on any of their bullshit AI policies. Patterns of abusive behavior is right, so you would be better off finding other things to use. You also have Apple over here reporting that OpenAI have signed a deal to partner on AI. Per Anders Edwards, Apple just said fuck you to all creatives and to the rest of their user base. An incredibly stupid move to placate the most dim-witted of investors. This destroys everything that their brand stood for. Tim should have realized the first rule of investors. If you think that your investors know your business better than you, then you and they are in for big trouble. You must always be in control, not let them control you. So now Apple go from a strong position to an incredibly weak one, all for the benefit of what exactly? A more annoying and less useful chatbot that's notoriously porous in security, built by a scraping company that's actively at war with the very people who are Apple's core user base. This is a tragedy of the commons on display. FOMO of features that the vast majority of users actively dislike and do not want. Worse, this tells the world that Apple's technical deficit is so great that they, even with all of their resources, they are not capable of delivering not even a new product, but an update to an existing one of their own. On top of that, this is giving up all of the publishing and content delivery side. They've become just the hardware that runs yet another version of OpenAI software, only more expensive and not quite as well as Microsoft's own. OpenAI, meanwhile, are the content deliverer system, bespoke content, music, eventually film and news. They're back to just being a box maker. Not even the best for all the tasks that they've decided to be a part of. May as well license Apple out again to a third party. All of this shows that Apple do not do market research anymore or ignore it. Absolute disaster for the brand. Expect the value to go briefly up before crashing once the investor meatheads realize that they've killed their golden goose. I don't know why anybody is going for this when they're specifically working with artists, when the artists have flocked away from anything and everything because of this stuff. And we're going to talk about that too, because there's a new platform that a lot of artists moved to so quickly that it gained 500,000 users in like 3 days. You also have Instagram is another one that made waves this last couple of weeks by saying that they were going to scrape everything, if they had not already scraped everything, on Instagram to use to train the data. That you had no real way. If you want to get out of it, then you can go and opt out. But when you tried to opt out, you got an email that said, "Prove that we used your data." You got to find proof that we used your data, while also saying you're using your data. So it was BS. Their opt out was just BS. There was no way to actually opt out when they've already actually just implicitly scraped your data. A lot of creators actually said this is the final straw, we're moving. So a lot closed down their Instagram. Even if their stuff has already been scraped, it's being done with the website. and many moved over to a website called Kara app, which was actually created, I think, in 2022 in response to the generative AI stuff actually coming out, but it had a small user base of about a couple 10,000s until all of this happened with Instagram and Apple and Adobe, where many of them moved over to Kara app, and it gained 700,000 users in approximately like a week. But of course, not just our artists over there. And these are artists that have defected from Instagram, DeviantArt, Artist Station, everywhere, wanting a safe place away from the generative AI scraping. And if you want to join, do also support the creator of that website. She's looking for money to help support it because the user base increased server costs way more than she could have considered. So if you have extra money and you believe in that mission, there is a Ko-fi page and a subscription page to help pay for the servers. But not only have artists move over there, of course, you have the AI bros who cannot help themselves but want to try to destroy and infect everything, who immediately already said, hey, they switched off the AI. Have they switched off the AI recognition on Kara because of not being able to pay the bills? So I don't know why they got to be like this, but they do be like this. Over here with Ashuto Shur, you just get what you get. OpenAI's Sora was developed primarily for Hollywood and not for general users. It's 100% certain now, if OpenAI is able to make deals with Hollywood studios, then why the heck haven't they released it for general users? Don't expect to see Sora anytime soon, at least not this year for sure. And that's when I get into the video stuff that I've seen the last couple of weeks, especially the last week or two, especially, where it's just been everything, just astroturfing me with a video from different. There's a Chinese one that's a big competitor against TikTok, and then there's Sora. And clearly it's to replace everybody because movie studios, instead of just hiring new talent to lower budgets, what do? Just delete everything. So I guess, I mean, it just gives us all a chance to actually stand a chance when nobody goes to see things that are completely made up and astroturfed. He adds that OpenAI executives were in the middle of multiple deals with studios in Hollywood that are starting to be rolled out. So they don't want bad press. So this also goes into the writers' strike stuff like a year ago, where they were trying to force you to put your likeness, sign over your likeness and all of your rights over to Hollywood in order to work in that field. We also have Scarlett Johansson says that she was shocked and angered when she heard ChatGPT voice that sounded like her. So apparently what happened, Sam Altman asked Scarlett Johansson to voice ChatGPT 4, and when she refused, OpenAI hired someone to mimic her voice and trained it on her voice anyway. So I hope that she's going to sue because that's a violation. It also shows that they're going to ask permission, but they really don't care about receiving permission. They're going to do whatever they want to do. You also have Tribeca to screen AI-generated short films created by OpenAI's Sora. Nanny director Nikyatu Jusu is among the 5 filmmakers who created a film for the festival using the tech. So, yeah. Ed Newton Rex, it's incredibly misleading for the Chamber of Progress to suggest that fair use for the protections of generative AI are required for AI-driven creativity to flourish. You can celebrate and encourage AI-driven creativity without supporting AI companies that train on human creators' works without permission and without payment. So this really relates to this Chamber of Progress. It says introducing Generate and Create, our campaign to celebrate and encourage AI-driven creativity and support establishing fair use protections. So they want protections. AIP protections for generative AI garbage, but not for like stuff made by real people because, you know, your stuff is not protected, but they are. And they call you a problem for wanting to protect your artwork from them. But let's take a deeper look into who the Chamber of Progress is. Oh, Chamber of Progress is not your friend. They're an astroturfing front funded by big tech to further corporate interests. They exist solely to protect and further the agenda of the biggest names in tech, and they couldn't care less about fair use. The Chamber of Progress is an American trade group that represents technology companies on issues such as antitrust law, content moderation, and self-driving cars. The group describes itself as progressive advocacy organization, while some have characterized it as an astroturfing corporate front group opposing government regulations and unionization. It was established in 2020 by Adam Kovakovic and is funded by Amazon, Uber, Meta, Google, Apple, Twitter, StubHub, and other tech companies. So They do be working hard on their astroturfing these last couple of weeks, that's for sure. We also have this study called The Impossibility of Fair LLMs. Many speak idyllically about the word with fair and unbiased LLMs, but is that even possible? In our new preprint, we take a most well-defined principle of AI safety and ethics and show in reality an LLM could never be fair under any definition in the current ML literature. All large language models, by the very nature of their architecture, are irreparably and irredeemably unreliable narrators. With LLM models, like for sentencing criminals or hiring job applicants, you might impose a constraint like fairness through an awareness. Your model doesn't take in gender or race into the input. But not all LLMs or any general purpose models built on unstructured data. It makes me kind of just, I don't want to say laugh because it's really sad, because you can't even use this kind of thing for criminal justice because you have to take into consideration the state, you have to take into consideration the crimes, you have to take into consideration the severity, you have to take into consideration the actual elements of what happened. That's why you have the difference between murder and manslaughter, first degree versus third degree, and you can't do that with this machine. And you can't do that with an algorithm. It requires a human understanding. So you're going to say that lawyers have to go through all of this training to understand these minute things, and in order to make sure that fairness happens, when by its very nature, this thing is not fair. Recommendation system scholars define fairness as equity between stockholders, such as content creators, but in OpenAI, Google could consume the internet and serve it up with an LLM instead of redirecting to third parties. Producers may never get their fair shares. What about group fairness? No luck. Again, with general purpose AI, fairness cannot be generated across populations, and LLM have no explicit target, city, industry, etc. Worse, every LLM has a multitude of sensitive attributes at play. There are no robust techniques to excise even one from the dataset, not much all of them, and unbiasing from some, as they remove essential information from other tasks like medical prediction. I don't understand the purpose of any of this other than theft. It's just theft to make some people rich and then to destroy everything for everyone else. That'll be linked in the description below if you want to read about it more. Back to Ed Newton Rex, every major generative AI product regurgitates its training data. AI developers know regurgitation will happen. They are aware of this before they even start training the model. It's not a rough edge or a bug. If it's expected and universal, it's a feature. And that's just what they do. So, in summary, I picked this one because it in summary does what has gotten to a lot of people these last couple of weeks. It's the current state. OpenAI, generative AI. If it exists on the internet, we'll steal it or steal it from someone else that stole it. Even if we decide to ask and you say no, we're still definitely stealing it. Meta. If you decide to post or have previously posted on any of our apps, we'll steal it. Adobe. If you don't post it, we'll steal it from the software that you made it with. Also Adobe, if you agree or don't agree with our theft robots, then we'll uninstall any previous versions that didn't allow us to steal, or we'll sue. Microsoft, if you don't use the software, don't post on the internet, and don't take your privacy seriously, then we'll screenshot and take your privacy seriously, we'll screenshot everything you do on your machine and store it in an easily accessible location so someone else can steal it. And that is the summary of everything. You also continually have people like this. If a toddler takes a picture by accident without knowing what's happening and the resulting photo is so stunning that it could win a prize, would that not be seen as art? It would. And my main point was that you shouldn't gatekeep art behind whether it took effort or not. Some portrait painters tried to criticize the rise of portrait photography in the 19th century for the same reason. The machine did what they had learned decades to do effortlessly. This doesn't work because art does take artistic intent in order to create it. It takes skill and intent, vision. There are art-like products that are not art, and that's something that some people don't understand. I'm sorry if you are a product producer, but there is a difference between art and product that looks like art but is not art. Over here with Strauss, we've also got more of the disgusting. We just got to highlight some of the scabs. Glaze is the most liberal, wishy-washy fix for a situation creatives and workers are facing. Like Glaze Nightshade itself uses GPU servers, on top of not really doing anything but pacify the copyright hyperfixation, it additionally contributes to the climate crisis on top. I can't believe you guys want to protect your work at the buyer. Have we not talked about how ChatGPT and all of these generative AI garbage server systems are continually destroying the environment? Do not even try. And calling it copyright hyperfixation to want to own your labor, to want to own the things that you created. Try thinking, bro. The only people that want this stuff are people who cannot use their brains. And I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. But if you can't use your brain, you don't get to claim somebody else's ideas. Sorry, not sorry. Try thinking for like 5 seconds a day. Maybe the next day it'll be 10 seconds. Then someday, maybe a week later, you can think for a whole minute straight without straining your mind. Give it a try. Obviously, we got to end this video soon. I'm getting spicy. So we're going to get there. Alex Hanna said we need a term for creatives who simp for AI scabs. Scabies. Help us out there. Because Ashton Kutcher over here saying AI is going to raise the bar in Hollywood because there is going to be more content than there are eyeballs. That's not how it works. I don't know if he's just stupid or if he's covering, but that's not how that works. It buries stuff. Okay, we've been seeing this in the writing community where people got their AI garbage all over the Amazon bookstore. More eyeballs, just bury stuff. This man's already made his money. He doesn't care. Two last things to end off on. Important information for those who understand the implications and harm on fair use analysis. Remember, Google Books was decided on the basis that it was likely to help rather than harm authors. Gen AI presents a completely different picture. It is inherently and legally unfair. The new study shows a 21% drop in demands for digital freelancers since ChatGPT was launched. The hype in AI is real, but so is the risk of job displacement. So competing with the information from earlier's article that said, the hype is lower, jobs are still being lost to this as well. And finally, we have Andrew Nigg says, regulating, trying to pull on your heartstrings, trying to guilt you. Says that regulating and restricting the use of AI may shut down American models out of the supply chain and undermine the spread of American values. Maybe that'll help get us more people.
If you're in a foot race with one or more competitors, I think there may be two ways to win. One is you can try to trip up the other guy. Maybe we should do a little bit of that in some cases. And the other is you could run faster and harder. I think here in the US, there's a lot we could do to run faster and harder ourselves. Invest much more in training, education, upskilling, invest in compute infrastructure. As Alex mentioned, improve the appropriations process. I think that I see lots of wins we could do there rather than constraining ourselves in the hope that by constraining ourselves, we can trip up the other guy. And there's actually one other risk. So today we see many nations buy surveillance software from other nations, from some of our adversaries, and it limits our ability to influence other nations' respect for human rights and privacy because it's not our software they're using anymore. I worry that a lot of the stifling regulations being proposed in DC will shut American companies out of the supply chain, cause other companies to use alternatives. And then someday, when a large language model is asked a question, what do you think of democracy? I would quite like that AI to give an answer that reflects our values rather than someone else's value. And I worry about those stifling things shut ourselves out. It'd be like an own goal of shutting ourselves out of the supply chain.
Am I the only one that just understood that as him saying, hey, we don't want their privacy violating software in your house. We want our privacy violating software in your house. We can't do that. Guys, it's all just spyware. They all just want to control your mind. They want to control your choices. They want to control everything about your life. That's what I see here. Anyway, those are the updates that I have. Those are different areas of interest that I have seen in the last couple of weeks regarding generative AI. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on any and everything, on any other updates maybe you've seen for generative AI that I didn't cover today. And also, if you want to see artists in their natural habitat, in a new habitat, and are supportive of arts made by humans and arts made by people, check out the Kara app because they're trying to do a combination of Twitter and Instagram where you have a portfolio area and a social media area. And there are a lot of great people over there. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend and don't die. And don't give up hope. I'm watching you. We're in it together.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out? The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross. Is he in trouble? We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him. Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Way. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?